I've changed my mind. Big Wave Beach is actually harder than I thought. Not because of a gradual increase in difficulty, but because of an absolute insane difficulty spike that occurred in the final 5 days of this world. Maybe it's due to the fact that I'm washed, or due to the fact that I actually beat this world without a single lily pad. But either way, I never want to see this world again. But before we get into that, why don't you subscribe so I can continue to bring you brain-rotting challenge runs. And in case you missed it, the previous videos in this challenge are on the playlist on screen. Big Wave Beach starts on day 1, where the plants continue to verse the zombies. But this time, they do it with sandy cheeks. It is on this day where we are introduced to the lily pad, a vital tool that would make this world impossible without it. However, I have no lily pads growing in my back garden. But not all hope was lost, since most days in this world come with a few lily pads pre-placed, and I can just plant food the lily pads to spawn more on the neighbouring tiles. This plant food strategy will be invaluable for this world, but right now, needless to say, this was day 1, and day 1 was beaten with ease. Moving on to day 2, we are shown the next part of the gimmick of Big Wave Beach, the waves. What these waves do is they do wave things, and they make a wave towards the seaweed line. Basically, this means I cannot plant anywhere after the seaweed line unless there's a lily pad, or unless I just wanted to piss away every bit of sun I produced. Fortunately, this day was pretty easy, and I didn't need to worry about the waves just yet. Day 3 was a day where we chilled with Bill, and day 4 was another day made easy with the help of our sad tomato. But unfortunately guys, I have a sad announcement to make. With recent British weather and going into the month of October, we have our first plant death. My artichoke plant has finally died off. Here's a picture of my empty pot. Make sure to put an F in the comments for the fartichoke. He was pretty useless, but in the end he was still our friend, and we must not forget his valiant sacrifice. Day 5 was another chill build day, so we continue on to day 6 where we meet our first new zombie type, the skooma zombie. What this guy does is he takes the magical substance skooma before diving underwater, and with him being underwater, the only way we can damage him is with our lobbing plants until he reveals his ugly ass face. Fortunately, this zombie didn't give me too much of a hard time, and we beat this day on our first attempt. Day 7 was a day I thought we might actually need to throw the towel in for and bring out our lily pad. Fortunately though, with the help of some smart plant food usage, it was another day we managed to actually beat on our first attempt. This was followed by day 8, which was another chill build day, and day 9, where Dave decided to plant mould all over the part of the garden that we could actually plant on. Thanks Dave, you fucking dickhead. Fortunately, we still managed to scrape by without using any lily pads, and we beat this day on our first attempt. Day 10 was another chillium billium day, and on day 11 we had most of our plants picked for us. This day still wasn't tough in the slightest, since I could just plant behind the tides, and we were introduced to a new zombie type, the surfer zombie, who insta-kills any plant he surfs towards. Even though this guy was a complete tosspot in my last challenge, he's almost laughably easy here, which is actually a nice change of pace. We continue on to day 12, which was by far the easiest day of the world so far. We had to plan our defences, and somehow I managed to succeed with only the sad tomato, proving once and for all, Big Wave Beach is easier than Neon Mixtape Tour, at least until the final 5 days of the world. Day 13 was a day where we had to produce at least 2,000 sun with less than 16 plants at any given time. But with the help of our good old friend the Bramble, we beat this day on our first attempt. This world's difficulty is as inconsistent as my bowel movements. Day 14 was a day we had to beat with given plants, and day 15 was our first actual hard day of Big Wave Beach. On this day, we had to protect these endangered cream pies, but unfortunately, a single touch makes them cream everywhere. That, and the sheer amount of zombies on screen overstimulated me to fuck, and made me end up making some stupid mistakes. There was nothing all that notable about this day, to be honest. Yes, it was hard, but only because of the low health of the cream pies, and in the end we actually did manage to beat this day on our 5th attempt or so. We are now halfway through Big Wave Beach, with Chill Bill marking the halfway point. We then continue on to day 17 and meet our next new zombie type, the Rule 34 Tentacle Zombie. Fortunately, once again, this zombie didn't really pose any sort of a threat whatsoever. In fact, I'm near certain we could probably skip over the next 5 or so days and go right to day 22 where shit starts to get bad, but you know me, I just love wasting everyone's time. Day 18 was a very chill build day, and day 19 was a day where most of my plants were picked for me. This severely limited my options. Fortunately, it was another day I bested on my first attempt. This day was followed by day 20 where I just kept failing. In fact, I kept failing so much that I had to implement a new patented Hui strategy. I called this strategy the 3-stage plan. Stage 1, it's where I focus solely on sun production and brambles, just to get as much sun as humanly possible. This was then followed by phase 2, which was plant fooding every single bean pad and placing some sad tomatoes, which was then followed by phase 3, forgetting everything and somehow winning the day anyway. This was then followed by another chill Bill day where we chill with Bill, before heading straight to day 22 where this challenge truly gets fucking stupid. The majority of my time on this world was spent on the final 10 days. I failed all of these days so fucking much I started to go insane live on stream. Speaking of which, this entire world was streamed over at twitch.tv/Hui, so why don't you come give me a follow or I'll steal your toenail and put it under your pillow. The reason day 22 was so utterly stupid was because we were introduced to the hooker zombie, who hooks my plants towards him, inevitably drowning them in their sorrows of having to be in a Hui video. Since day 22 was an introduction to him, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. We did manage to pass the day within a few attempts, but this guy can truly go fuck himself. This was followed by day 23, which once again just sucked ass. The main issue with this day was we had to protect these endangered bananas, which doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world, but then these hooker zombies show up and pull them towards their instant death. I learned to hate this fucking zombie even more on this day. The fact that this zombie kept getting away with this and made my day a fucking nightmare, it just made me roar. This paired with the fact that I had to manually aim the banana, I genuinely think I failed this day due to the fact I was just getting overstimulated. But after 25 attempts, I managed to beat the day. Unfortunately though, I believe I'm now colorblind. Day 23 was followed by day 24, which was a Chillium Billium day, and day 25 was a day where we had to spend no more than 3,000 sun. Relying on sad tomatoes was out of the question here, and we had to attempt to stall until the final wave and let the mowers do most of the work. Unfortunately, this is what the day threw at me. What the fuck is this? In the end, I just decided to spam my bramble, but oh my god, this was another day that hurt my feelings and gave me a headache due to the sheer amount of bullshit on my screen at once. Day 26 was a conveyor belt day, and on day 27 we had most plants picked for us, which somehow we managed to beat on our first attempt. They clearly brought in the balancing guy from Jurassic Marsh on this day. Unfortunately, day 27 lured me into a false sense of security, because the next day broke me. Day 28 was the biggest load of bullshit I have ever seen in my entire fucking life. This day is the hardest day in the entirety of Plants vs Zombies 2. It is a day that I am convinced relies so heavily on RNG or just on you leveling your plants that it stomps out every single challenge run that goes its way. The issue with this day is we can't lose more than 5 plants at a time. This sounds fair, right? Well, fucking wrong, dumbass, because this lily pad counts as a fucking plant, so this number might as well be 2 plants. You can't lose more than 2 plants because go fuck yourself. Couple this with the fact that the hooker zombie basically insta-kills any of the plants if he pulls them far enough, and the fact that I can't place any lily pads of my own makes this day completely unfair. It was so unfair, in fact, that I decided this game was cheating, and if the game was cheating, I was going to have to play dirty. So I went back into my garden, fertilised both my sunflowers and my tomatoes, and increased their power. I was now ready to take on this day once again, and somehow I still fucking failed. If this isn't a testament to how bullshit this day is, then I don't know what is. I might be washed, I might be shit at PvZ2, but fuck this day, man. After many more attempts and a lot of luck, we managed to scrape by and beat the day, but at what cost? Our tomato was now a genetically modified super tomato, but in the end, I came to the conclusion that we need every single bit of firepower we could muster for the modern day. The hardest day in the game was then followed up by day 29, which was a plan your defences day. Unfortunately, this whole day was on waves, and there wasn't a lily pad in every lane, meaning we had to start the day with plant fooding a lily pad, and then we sent out our sad tomatoes on every single one. With this genius move, we actually did manage to beat this day on our first attempt. We then move on to day 30, a day that was so unbelievably hard in my previous challenge that it actually led to me erasing my old save file, all because I had to protect these little cutie patooties. Fortunately, in this challenge it was a complete cakewalk and I beat it on my very first attempt. I'm just gonna put this down to luck, and not my insanely powerful tomatoes. And since day 31 was a given plant day, we can finally move on to the zomboss encounter of this world, so I decided to call down my good old friend, YouTube commenter, HANNES.YES to smite down the zomboss where he stood by electrocuting him for 5 minutes straight. If you want to assist me on the finale of this challenge, make sure to comment "I suck toes" in the comments below. And with that, Big Wave Beach is complete. This world completely broke me, especially in the final 10 days or so, but somehow, even with this world taking the longest by far and having the most fails, I still think Neon Mixtape Tour is worse. Hey, so my outro music is still copyrighted, so if you could do me a favour and just hit that subscribe button, I'll be very happy and I'll be able to sleep tonight.